All right, Kaylor Betts, welcome to Persistence Playbook, my friend.
What's going on, brother? Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hell yeah, dude. Always good to have a fellow mustache on the show. You don't see a ton of them. You really don't.
No, we the make mustaches great again. We need the world needs more mustaches for sure. And you know what? It's funny. I did this by accident. There's Movember, obviously. So
Mhm.
just one Movember, I decided to grow a mustache. And I got to be honest, if I'm just being very transparent, the ladies were speaking pretty pretty positive about it. So I thought, you know what, let's keep rolling with this. And I don't know, like a few years later, here we are. I still have a mustache.
I love it. What one fateful Movember just
A hundred
changed it
percent.
all. And I gotta respect it. You've got yours grown in pretty thick. I had mine going that thick like about last year, and my partner was not as into the thickness, so I had to bring it down a notch. But I was having a good time riding that wave, man. It felt just like powerful, just waking
It
up and seeing that much facial hair under your nose.
100%. You know what? They're polarizing, and it kind of speaks to who I am authentically to my core is a polarizing individual. It's like you're either going to love the stuff I say or do or very much dislike it. And I think mustaches are the same way. Some women don't want any of it but I'll tell you what, if a woman loves a mustache, they love a mustache.
Right, exactly, and they're not going to diverge from that stance. They probably got their heels kind of dug in on that one, so you got to respect that. So
Exactly.
I kind of want to start with just kind of talking about your journey, and I think kind of your roots as a thought leader were in the mental health arena, and I know mental wealth was a coin that you termed, and curious how, and I know your mission has expanded since then, but your initial mission of mental wealth, how did that come about?
Yeah. So, what I like to say is, from as far back as I can remember, I was always in a battle with my mind, just for a lack of a better way of putting it. And what I really mean there is, there's this part of my psychology, and that this is what I've eventually learned that it was this part of my psychology that I like to call my anti you. Or in this case, it's anti me. And I've even given it a name, and we can talk about why I give it a name, but it's named KK. So
Cool,
as
I'm into
as
it.
your audience might start to think I'm a little bit nuts if they don't know me already, I'm totally willing to accept that. But it's actually a part of the subconscious mind that essentially wants to dim your light and keep you safe, small, and comfortable. And what it really is it's our survival DNA part of us, right? Because if you look at human history, um, we've definitely evolved and adapted based on our environment. And the fact of the reality is most of human history was life or death. Every single thing you did, you woke up in the morning, and every decision you made was to either increase your safety and survival or distract you farther away from it. So that's really our conditioning, and that's the program that we run off of. Is we still think that we live in this environment, and I'm referring to our psychology and our physiology, but yet we live in a environment where survival really isn't success anymore. At least if you're lucky enough to live in a country like we do, or part of the world that we do. So, there was this part of my psychology that is just that I wasn't aware of, that just was riddled with wounds and insecurities and fears. And, I won't really get into why, but, childhood experiences. And it was riddled with these fears and these wounds. So, really, it was hijacking my psychology, it was hijacking my nervous system and my physiology. And it was just causing me to consciously know that I want, a life like I could see some of the people living around me, but I just wasn't able to because again, I was riddled with fear and this anti you part of me, this KK that I've named this part of me was taking the wheel. That was my life. And it was like literally it had its hands on the steering wheel and it controlled my life for many, many years. It manifested as depression, anxiety, panic attacks, ADHD, not being able to get out of bed in the morning. And then it led to me actually starting to partake in some very unhealthy coping mechanisms because of the way in which that part of me felt. So I started to drink a lot and get into partying and just degenerate, destructive behaviors, and that continued until I was about early 20s. And then it started to shift. And when it started to shift was when I started to expose myself to, some of the OGs in the personal growth space, like Tony Robbins or Jim Rohn and so forth and so on, even Joe Dispenza. And I listened to these guys, and for the first time, they kind of helped me realize that I'm not my thoughts. I'm not the fear that I feel. Those are just programs. That's just programming and conditioning within my psychology. And then I learned why it was there. And I really learned that they were like automatic computer like programs that were controlling my thoughts, actions, ideas, and emotions 90 to 95% of the time. And they made me realize that I can actually, there's this part of me that's not KK, that's not the anti you, that's not the survival DNA, that is actually the observer of those things. So I could observe, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, I could become conscious of my unconscious programs. And that's what guys like Tony Robbins and them helped me do, is make me realize that, like, oh, I'm actually the observer, and I can actually take their hands off the wheel, or take this part of me's hands off the wheel, take my power back, is essentially what you're doing. And you can recondition and reprogram those patterns. And it takes courage. You got to feel the fear and do it anyways. It's not about being fearless, because the fear is always going to be there. It was very strong, but with tolerable steps and stepping into low risk opportunities, I went on this relentless and obsessive journey of just that reprogramming and interrupting the pattern that was my life that wasn't serving me. And I don't know what it is about me, but I just, maybe this is something I was born with, or maybe it was developed. I really feel like sports had a lot to do with this, because sports really teaches you to just, you know, pursue excellence, and to never settle for mediocrity, never settle for losing, and always, you know, work hard and move towards your highest potential and winning and progressing. And I don't know what it is in me, but like, I just really went all in. And since then, and I'm just a very all or nothing guy. So I was all in on the degenerate activities, like the partying and the drinking and the drugs and sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of thing. But then when I got a taste of like, oh, I actually can like really do something special with my life, and I actually am not, unintelligent, and I'm not a degenerate, I'm just acting like one. I got obsessed with that, and honestly, I haven't really looked back. It's been a bumpy ride. It hasn't been perfect. It's been a loosely functioning disaster, along the way. But yeah, kind of like the stock market, but ultimately it's gone up, and
Sure.
now I'm in a place that I never would have even imagined, and I'm helping other people go through that same journey.
How cool, man. How cool. It's so funny too how Tony Robbins always comes up in these conversations when someone's talking about like a turning point in their life. It's like 80% of the time it was like, oh yeah, I read Unleash the Giant Within, and I started turning my shit around. It's like, I
100%.
love Tony. Have you ever seen Tony live? I mean, that guy's a force of fucking nature.
I have, man. He is something else, and he's kind of like an easy target to almost kind of like poke fun at, just because he's the epitome of like the personal growth guy. Like, even like on The Simpsons, I remember, like Tony
Right.
Robbins being on The
He's the guy.
Simpsons.
He's the guy.
Simpsons. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's the guy, right?
Right. He's the
But
guy.
undeniably, like, just had an impact on so many. I mean, that guy, the world would not be the same without Tony Robbins, honestly. Like,
100%.
so yeah,
But
mad respect for him.
oh, for sure. I mean, he's on stage for like 8 hours and he is just giving you everything he's got. And it's like, there's no other entertainer like that. I mean, even like, Broadway shows go on for a couple hours. The host of the Oscars is up there for a few hours. Like, this guy's up there all day, and literally thousands of people are on the edge of their seats and they want more when it's all done. I mean, I don't think there'll ever be anyone like him ever again. I really truly think he's just a one of a kind thought leader, performer, and he's just an amazing dude.
I totally agree, man. He's also a big source of inspiration for me, just based on, like, I look at guys like him, and I'm also gonna include Donald Trump in this. And by the way, this isn't a political statement I'm about to make, so please try and put aside, any of your political opinions, based on, as I go into what I'm about to say, whether you like Trump or not. What I love about guys like Trump and Tony Robbins is their commitment to just showing up, and showing up, with, extensively, long hours. And I think that they prove. I actually, do genetics play a role? Yeah, I think to some degree, but I think it's actually more just a state of mind. I really think that, a lot of people think burnout is just working too many hours. I really don't think it is. I think it's actually I think it's having the wrong mindset. It's having a lack mindset, and it's entering into those quote unquote long hours, under the wrong perspectives. And I think that these guys don't complain. They keep showing up. They're present, right? I think a lot of burnout comes from just not being present and worrying about things that haven't happened yet. They're able to root in the present. They're able to show up, and they're able to be mission focused. And I think, I one of my favorite quotes that I love is like, "Who needs happiness when you have mountains to move?" And it's like, look, I love happiness. Don't get me wrong. And I think happiness comes and goes. I don't think we really control it that much. But I think if you pursue moving mountains, if you pursue a mission and actually optimize fulfillment instead of optimizing happiness, not only do I think you end up happier in the end, but I think you end up healthier as well too. And I think there's something in our wiring too that just needs to be fulfilled. We need to be going after a North Star.
Oh, for sure. I think people that put fulfillment and service as their priority, as opposed to seeking out happiness, will ultimately feel more happiness. I think, that in the Bible, Adam was given a shovel, first things first, for a reason, right? I think as people, and men specifically, we're built to work. And I think that if we're not doing meaningful work, then we're not going to be happy in really almost any part of our lives. And I think that, the hedonistic way of kind of seeking out happiness, and there's never been more just pleasure buttons all around us than there is, in the current day and age, whether it be social media, caffeine, you can buy mushrooms at like the local convenience store. I mean, it's a wild time to be alive. There's no shortage of pleasure, but I think that also just definitely makes it more difficult to lean into those hard things on a daily basis that are ultimately going to make us happier. You seem like a guy that is pretty good at leaning into hard things. I don't know if you always were, but it seems like you are these days. What do you do or say to yourself on a regular basis to get yourself to consistently do that hard thing?
So I definitely have not been good always at stepping into hard things. In fact, complete opposite. Particularly in the part of my story where I was in a battle with my mind. In fact, I avoided all hard things, all the time. My whole life was just optimizing safety and comfort. But then I ended up realizing that that doesn't serve me. So that's when I started to step into embracing difficult things. And here's how I look at it. I split up every single decision you make, every action you take, every behavior you have into immediate return activities and delayed return activities. And what I ended up realizing is one of the reasons why I was destroying my life and I was so destructive to my overall highest potential and highest quality of life was that I was consistently just choosing the thing that made me feel better in the micro. So I was essentially making decisions based off how I felt in the moment, and I was opting for immediate return activities. And there's actually an ancestrally and evolutionary reason for this, because if you think about it, for most of human history, when we were in that survival environment, everything that you needed to do to survive was immediate returns, right? It was like killing the buffalo and you have food for your family, start a fire, your family's warm, you know, fight this bad guy that's coming in because he wants war, like, you're safe. So it was all immediate return activities. So we're primed to opt for immediate return activities. But in today's world, it's the immediate return activities that actually don't serve us, right?
Right.
So that's what I ended up realizing was, it's the things that I'm doing, the actions and the decisions that I'm making or taking and making are the things that bring me that return in the immediate. And then when I realized that my life was going to get a lot better if I just switched to more embracing delayed returns, and I slowly started to shift my just day, and it started to look like just getting filled with more delayed return activities, my life just started to get better. And again, I started to just get obsessed with the delayed return activities. So what are the immediate return activities? Well, that's the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And it's the coffee, the mushrooms, the social media, the porn, the gambling, the smoking, the nicotine. Like, now, I don't necessarily ever call out these things as inherently bad or good, because I think there is a time and a place to be able to use alcohol or nicotine, or, some of them you should probably always avoid. But there are some things, like, like
Right.
I'll have some drinks every once in a while, like once a quarter, if
Sure.
it's a beautiful experience that I think I've earned, and I'm not drinking to fill a void, sure, I'll have some mezcals and soda, and I have a whole routine around it and all this stuff. Yeah, okay, sure, maybe I'll do that sometimes, but it's calculated, it's intentional. So these things aren't inherently bad or good, as much as it's what is your relationship and your approach and your intention behind them. So that's the immediate returns. What are the delayed returns? The hard things, like you said, it's the cold tub. It's going on a
Ah,
hike. It's going
the
on a
fucking
hike.
cold tub.
Yeah, the fucking cold tub. And or it's waking up at, you know 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning because your friend wants to go on a hike, and or the workout. It's leg day, it's the deadlifts, it's the building a business, man. Like, you just get fucking punched in the face for 2 years straight before anything becomes even remotely worth it. Like, it's the delayed return activities that I have just now fully embraced, and they've changed my life, and my life just keeps getting better and better and better the more I keep staying committed to those.
I love it. And I think the only way to get better at doing hard things is just by doing hard things, doing things we don't like, right? Even those micro, even in the moment, it could be something small, like your partner could need something from upstairs and you just don't want to get off the couch. Like, there's a micro hard thing that you can push through and get a little bit better at doing those hard things. It's doing Bulgarian split squats at the gym because those fucking suck. No one likes those. Maybe it's not doing bench press because everyone loves bench press. That's not, that's more of an enjoyable activity, I think, for most of us. Leg day to me is probably what's building that do hard things muscle. And for myself, I know I've just been kind of just looking for those micro moments in my day where it's like, there's something I would rather not do. It's not going to kill me to do it, but I just don't want to do it. And just trying to defeat those little hard things and just trying to build
I
on that on a daily basis.
I agree, and I can't remember the part of the brain, but Dr. Andrew Huberman he talked about it on his interview with David Goggins. They talked about a part of the brain that actually grows the more hard things you do, the more delayed return activities that you engage in. So it's a real thing.
For sure. I heard that interview. Yeah. And he talked about how, like, he enjoys working out so that he doesn't even consider that like a hard thing. But maybe sitting down and, scripting a piece of content could be a hard thing for someone. We've all got our hard things that we know we don't necessarily love, but they're good for us and they're good for our business. And I just think that the more we kind of look at life from that lens of searching out those little micro hard thing wins, and the more that we can do that and the more we can defeat them, the better we're going to be.
Stay hard.
Stay hard, folks. Grow a mustache, get hard, stay hard, start a podcast, and start living your life.
We can just end the podcast now. We just gave the blueprint.
That's it. Boy, I mean, everyone's got a podcast these days. I feel like almost every entrepreneur I meet either has one or they're about to start one. It's almost like, if you don't have a podcast, like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life?
And let's change the narrative to, so yes, everyone should have a podcast, but everyone should be putting out a podcast every single week for 2 years straight, because if you're not, you don't have a podcast, you have a project that you didn't actually follow through on.
For sure, 100%. I think we've all heard those like metrics of like there's millions of podcasts, but apparently I think there's only actually like 200,000 or 300,000 podcasts in the world that actually release weekly episodes. So there's not as much competition out there as you think. If you can just stay consistent, you'll eventually get your message out there and build your tribe. But I think the pod burn is a real thing, and getting through those first 100 episodes can certainly weigh on you.
Well, it exemplifies how shitty, quite frankly, the human psyche is at just being able to commit to things, right? Like, and you know, I see it in business, you see it in podcasting, you see it in fitness and health, diet, you see it in relationships. Um, if you can just be intentional, relentless, and consistent, I mean, you're going to set yourself free in ways that most people in society will never even remotely get to. And it's that's just it, man. And everyone should be comforted by that. Like, that should be like, I love the fact that it takes no talent to hustle and show up and be consistent. So I play the long game, and like, dude, I'm not the most talented guy. You know, I am talented. I am smart, but I'm not the smartest guy, man. I'm around people all day long where I'm like, you're so much fucking smarter than me. Like, um, you
I have
know, and
that same thought all the time on this
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, there you go.
All the
I
time.
I get it on my podcast all the time as well too. So it's like, so like, look, but the one thing that no one can take away from me that I really have an advantage over even people who are very much smarter than me is I just don't fucking give up, man. I'm relentless, and I you know, people are like, oh, how did you get you know, a podcast, or how are you doing this in your business, and how do you get all these because I don't fucking take days off. I don't. And I know that's a controversial statement in today's world, which I don't understand. I know it's nuanced, um, because I don't believe in burnout, but I don't take days off, man. Like, I don't, like, you want to achieve something extraordinary, then you're going to have to ditch the idea that you're ever going to have balance in anything. Nothing extraordinary came from balance. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's about intentional imbalance, right?
No, I agree with that. And I had Jeff Fenster on the podcast recently, and we kind of spoke about a similar topic. And he was along the same lines. He's like, with what I'm trying to build, the impact I'm trying to have, the companies I'm trying to build and eventually exit, like that doesn't align with days off. Like, I love what I do. I do it every day. I don't consider it work, and I don't really turn off at any point during the day. Like, when he's with his family, he's with them, but he's still reachable by his team. Like,
Yeah.
business is still there. It's just who he is. And I agree. I think, the clocking out at 5 p.m. and taking the weekends off is there, and you can live a really lovely life. I don't think there's a right or a wrong here. I think you just got to decide what you want your life to look like. But I think if you're really trying to have a global impact, then you've got to kind of throw that out the window, because that's just not the way to make it happen.
I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm actually going to push back a little bit on, because why not? This is going to make it fun and
Let's push.
entertaining,
Come
right?
on. Let's push.
You mentioned, because I wanted to say that too. There was a part of me that was just about to say, you know what? If you clock out at 5 and you take the weekends off, and you,
Ooh,
there
you're
was
gonna say it's wrong. Give me
there
the
was a part of
wrong.
me
Hit me with it.
there was a part of me that wanted to say the same thing, like,
Yeah,
oh, that's fine, like, there's no right or wrong, and blah blah blah. So I get it. I was literally just about to say it,
for sure.
but then I had to kind of check myself, and it's like, I'm not going to flat out say it's wrong. All I care about is people's highest quality of life. And
Mhm.
can we go out there and can we find someone who's checking out at 5 and living for the weekends, and is happy as a fucking clam and fulfilled and lives a great life? And yeah, I absolutely think we can find people. So I'm not going to, again, I'm not going to say it's inherently right or wrong. I'm going to almost compare it to like, let's maybe compare it to like alcohol, because we also can find people out there who drink numerous times a week, and they actually, and it's like hard to even say because it's like so backwards from what I normally promote, but like, I have a friend who drinks like on a regular basis, and like, he's super happy, he's fulfilled, he's a high performer. He's like, is it one day going to take, eventually years off his life? Is he going to develop some sort of ailment or illness because of it? Yeah, maybe. But I also think there's a lot with like the fact that psychologically he doesn't view it as a problem. I think that like that is, probably going to protect him, in the long run. So I'm not going to say that we can't find examples of people who drink on a regular basis, but it's rare. It's very rare. Okay. It's not for everyone. That's for sure. But am I going to like criticize the fact that no, like, because really all I care about is, his happiness, his relationships. Like, is he, serving his overall quality of life? And I can't say that every activity I do is like optimizing for 100% health. I'm not perfect. No one is. So I'm going to say that the checking out at 5 and living for the weekends is the same as the drinking in this way, in that I think for most people, a lot of their, I'm actually going to say for most men, okay? For most men, a lot of their depression, anxiety, lack of fulfillment, insecurities, feelings of inadequacy, fill in the blank, internal programming that's negative. I'm going to say that a lot of those things would be solved and better served and go away just by finding something that makes you want and desire to not clock out at 5 and check out in the weekend. Like, you want to know why I don't? Yeah, it sounds good to have the weekends off and be able to check out at 5. You want to know why I don't do it? Because I fucking love what I do. It doesn't mean that I love every moment. There's a lot of things that I do that I don't love because, but I love the mission. So for me, I think that it's wired in a man's physiology and our conditioning that if we have a North Star that makes us not want to check out at 5 and every single weekend, I just think that more men would be living a higher quality of life. I really, really do. And I think so many men are, they've been conditioned to believe that that's a great life, is to check out at 5 and have your weekends and live for your 2 or 3 week vacation a year. And I think that they may even say that they're happy, but I just don't think they know how much more fulfilled they could be, how much more of an extraordinary life they could live if they just found a mission and a North Star that would make them forget about that it's 5 p.m. or
I
forget
agree.
about that it's the weekend.
I agree with that. I do. And I think, like you said, specifically for men, I think that really applies to almost all men, that if they did find that mission that lit their heart on fire so much that they just wanted to focus and push that ball forward every day, all day, it would ultimately make their life a lot more meaningful, a lot more enjoyable. I guess the question is, though, do you think all men know what that North Star is deep down in their heart? Or do you think a lot of men simply just don't know what the fuck that is, and that's why they stay in their 9 to 5 soul sucking job?
Well, look, I think that um, we could simplify this for men. And I think it really comes down to, there's this great quote that I love. It's like, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. So I really think it's just about, and look, it's not maybe as much about finding your gift. I think it's creating a gift. Like I think it's a human right. I don't think it's a privilege for a human to have some sort of gift that they can build within them, some skill, some gift, and it can look so vastly different depending on the human you're talking to. But it's to find your gift, and then it's, or create a gift or create a skill, find a problem that you can solve to make the world a better place, and then go out and be of service. Like, I think it's really as simple as that. I don't buy, I really don't like when, it's not that I don't like it, I don't buy it when men, if a man were to come to me and say, while I worked my 9 to 5 all year, because Kaylor, I'm not like you. You're an entrepreneur. You were put on this earth to like speak and do a podcast and blah blah blah. You got your Instagram, and yeah, you have messages that people like and all this stuff, and you created a business around it, and you help people break free of the system and all this stuff. But like, I'm just, no, I was meant to be like 9 to 5 or a corporate job, like, because I just don't have that mission or North Star. It's like, again, it's not really something you go in and find as much as I think you go out and create. It's like, how can I create a gift that increases my value in the marketplace, that actually solves problems for people? And then how can I go out and build and scale that so that I can be of service to as many people as possible? And then you continually grow that for the rest of your life. I think every man, as long as you're lucky enough to live in a country where there's opportunities you can take advantage of, I think every man, minus some tragic situations where maybe some people are um, have disabilities or anything like that, but anything beyond minor exceptions, I think every man can go out and fulfill a mission like that.
Find a need, help people in need, help people solve a problem, bring a product to market that gives service some type of avatar of human being. And that's a step towards finding your mission, right? As opposed to sitting there and just journaling about it and going for walks through the woods and hoping that God kind of speaks it into your heart. I think that we find the answers to these questions by taking messy action. Just provide service to somebody in some form, and that'll direct you. That'll be a step closer towards that answer than you just sitting there and wondering, why was I put on this planet? I just don't think that's how we as men figure things out.
Exactly. And I think that that is coming from a selfish place, like to ask God, like, why was I put on this earth? It's like, no, 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 just you have a brain, you have hands, you have a body that you should be very grateful for all those things. And so long as you're healthy, um, then go out and find, again, a skill that solves a problem. And as Elon Musk says, he says we get paid in direct proportion to the difficulties of the problems we solve. So find a difficult problem for people, and don't think so selfishly. It's actually, you can create a mission and a business for you. It can be for you. Like I'd be lying if I said I don't build my business for partly me and my life so I can do things and build a life of freedom, but it's not about me. Like if you make it about you, you're going to go nowhere. It's about, how can I serve? And I always joke, I'm like, man, if the market told me that the best way I could serve my clients and my audience was to start a holistic toilet paper company, I would be fulfilled as possible by making that holistic toilet paper company as excellent and extraordinary as I can make it.
That's the name of this episode: Holistic
Yeah, there
Toilet
you
Paper
go.
Company.
There you go. How to build a holistic toilet
Holistic
paper
Toilet
company.
Paper Company with Kaylor Betts.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Like it's not about you. It's about your audience. It's who you're serving. So I think that's where people, oh, I got to find my mission as a man. It's like, no, solve a problem in the marketplace, learn how to build a business around it, learn how to also, because this is how our economy works, learn how to also make money around it so that you can be a provider to yourself and your family, and you can create an amazing life, and then teach other people, how to do it eventually. So, I mean, that's just it, man. And like, to go back to the like 9 to 5 thing, I know I get like pushback on that and people get so triggered by that. I'm saying the 9 to 5, but I just don't know anyone who is truly, to me, in their essence and living their highest potential by having something that makes them want to clock out at 5 and not work on the weekends. Work,
No,
quote unquote, right? Work. It's like, I don't
yeah,
really consider it work.
no, I don't. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that's like a truly fulfilled man that is just doing the 9 to 5 thing. I'm sure that, right, there is probably a dream in their heart of some sort, or at least there's an idea in their mind of something that they think they should try, and maybe they don't know if that's their grand mission, but it's almost inconsequential, really. It's like the important thing is that you're serving people. It doesn't matter really at the end of the day if you're fixing their toilets, or you're teaching them how to be a better public speaker. You just got to go out there and serve people. But I do think that there is something about a 9 to 5 job that just seems to suck the soul out of people. And I personally have never really been involved in corporate America. I did a little bit of like a sales job right out of college. Then I became like an electrician on TV and movie sets. Then I was a real estate agent, and now I've kind of delved into coaching, thought leadership, and podcasting. And so I can't really relate to it too much, but I know that when I speak to my friends that are in 9 to 5 jobs, they normally don't want to talk about their work. And I think that is kind of all you need to know. If you don't want to talk about it, then you're probably not too passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just speak to the, like, look, I'm not suggesting that anyone who works at a company is, because like, look, let's look at another situation. Joe works at this startup because he believes in the mission and the company. It aligns with his values and what he wants to bring to the table. He has a skill that solves a particular problem for that company, and he enjoys the work that he does, loves the people around him, and he ends up working his way up, and it ends up getting paid a good amount, but he's probably not checking out at 5. He's probably not checking out on the weekends. He's probably still working. And then, by the way, then he starts a side gig where he invests in real estate, because that's part of his mission, and now he wants to build his real estate portfolio, and he starts to build that. And then, and then maybe he outgrows that company, so then maybe he goes out and he's a consultant after, so now he's building his own thing. And then maybe eventually he gets into politics, and now he's a politician. Like it's not one thing that people will probably, not uh, take very well in what I'm saying, is that we're kind of attacking people who like work at companies, or that's how they're taking it. It's not that. It's more so, if you're doing something that you want to check out at 5 and you want to check out every weekend, and you can't wait for your vacations. And I think what you just said is a really good example too. If you're not really wanting to talk about what you do, like if you're just like, oh man, I've been talking about it all day, let's not talk about it. Like, dude, I can fucking talk about what I do all day long and all
For
night
sure.
long. I
For
go to a
sure.
party, I want to talk about what I do, you know so I think that's more so what it is. It's not necessarily like working at a company, but more so the just looking at it as work, honestly. Like, I
Right.
don't look at this as my work. Sure, sometimes I label it that way, but like, dude, what I'm scared about is if I didn't have, like, going to Mexico and taking a full week off right now, like not being able to do anything in my business, um yeah, that doesn't feel good to me right now. I got to be really honest, it
For
doesn't.
sure.
I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? And so I'm just going to lay there and like, meditate and find some people to hold hands and sing kumbaya. Like, cool. Maybe if it was a retreat or something like a men's retreat, and we're like working on, expansion and getting better and breath work and, whatever. But just going to like chill on a beach, like, no, I'm sorry. That's not in the cards.
I agree. I'm not really a chill on the beach guy either. I'm very fair skinned myself, so that's just a lot of fucking work. That's a lot of SPF application. I know you're not a big sunblock guy, so we can go there if you like. But as an Irish guy who's got multiple uncles and grandfathers that just have like chunks taken out of their nose, like craters taken out of their face from too much sun exposure, I do kind of lean towards the SPF being an okay thing once in a while. But yeah, I'm not a lay on the beach guy. Curious though, SPF. Do you think it's totally bad for us, or should we just get a little sun in the morning before we put on our SPF?
Oh, dude, this to me is so simple. You buy from one of the big brands sunscreen that is filled with toxic chemicals, and you mix that with an inflammatory diet, no question that is a recipe for skin cancer. um or I think I'm not going to say skin cancer, because I should stay away from speaking in absolutes here, because it's a very nuanced topic. But I think that to me is the problem, is the or it's the inflammatory diet mixed with the sun exposure, mixed with the chemicals in the sunscreen. No bueno. All you got to do, this is really simple: don't eat inflammatory foods. So stay away from processed foods, stay away from industrial seed oils, which those are the two big factors in an inflammatory diet. Then get sun, but yeah, you don't want to overdo it. Too much of a good thing is never, it's never always good. So if you get too much sun and you burn, even though the sun is good for us, I don't think that's a good thing. But then also just get a non-toxic sunscreen. Like, I have non-toxic sunscreen for when I need to go golfing. Like, as much as I love getting sun and my skin isn't prone to getting burnt, um, if I'm going golfing for 5 hours in Kelowna and it's like 40 degrees out or 35 degrees out, yeah, I'm gonna put some non-toxic mineral based sunscreen on my skin, and then it's free of chemicals, and then you don't burn. And it's pretty much as simple as that. And I'll tell you what, you avoid seed oils and processed food, just try and burn. Like, I can't get a sunburn. I used to be able to get a sunburn. Even just changing your diet really affects burning. And I will burn, but it will be gone after 24 hours. And I know that might sound crazy, but it's true.
Cool. I'll have to go and read the back of my sunblock. I'm sure there's it's probably not all minerals. I probably got to look for a new brand there. Now, actually, I guess before we move off sun, we got to talk about it. What about sunning the balls? I know you're a ball sunner. I personally never sunned a ball. Is it necessary?
I personally never sunned a ball. Um, It's look, there actually is data to support that getting sun on the balls does some good things. Um, you know, one being increases testosterone, sperm quality, sperm count, da 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 da. There's some benefits, but mostly it started as kind of a joke. I mean, I saw a lot of people in this community, like I say this community as in like the biohacking world or the health world, holistic health world, that were sunning their balls, and I just think it's hilarious, right? So like I kind of started, playing with it a little bit on my social media, and then people started to obviously make comments, and it's something I get asked a lot about. Like when people come up and say hi to me in public, like a lot of times they're mentioning the ball sunning, like, oh, I'm surprised you're not sunning your balls right now or whatever. Or I've had literally couples come up to me and be like, we were just on a hike and we found this place where we could both sun our balls and blah blah blah. Like it's just kind of become a fun thing. But yeah, I do sun my balls because look, if it's good for our entire body, if it's good for our skin in the right dose, um, yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be good for our balls. And I have seen data to support that.
Nice. But when we're done, I'm definitely going to chat GPT and look up some of those studies because I'm very very curious about the ball sunning. I don't know where I'd do it honestly. I'd have to find like a remote area. I don't have like a balcony or anything, and the community I live in, I don't think would love that. But I'm sure there's a place. There's a
But
place that
by the
the
way,
balls can be sunned.
here's the thing though, if you're going to use ChatGPT to teach you how to, I mean, ChatGPT is basically the establishment, right? If you go to a
Sure.
doctor and you say, hey, how can I be healthy? These are the same people who are often, not all, but often telling you that diet doesn't really have too much of an effect. And, like, oh, it doesn't really matter about, sleep and blah, blah. It's just, take this pill and you'll be okay. Right. So ChatGPT, I find, um, is pretty establishment based, and they're probably not going to give you great health advice, or they're probably going to say it's pseudoscience, right? But I can send you over the studies. Do you follow Carnivore Aurelius?
I don't. Sounds like
Okay.
sounds like an amazing handle though.
It is, yeah. He's an amazing account. He's an amazing account, and he's talked about the benefits with like actual credible studies that are in scientific journals. So, anyways,
Cool, cool. I'm friends with Meat Mafia Brett. I don't know if you know
yeah.
him,
Ask
but
him about him.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Meat Mafia Brett. I've heard talk about the ball sunning and the seed
yeah,
oils, and he's definitely on the same page. I'm sure he's got the studies in his Google Doc
yeah.
as well
Totally.
that he refers to frequently. So a topic we cover a lot here on Persistence Playbook is just like the resistance to work, and Stephen Pressfield wrote a whole book about it, and just like just sometimes we just feel a little bit of resistance as human beings to that work that we know we should be doing. And I don't think everyone feels it, because I've asked this question to entrepreneurs, and some of them are just like, I don't really feel it. I just get up and I go, and I'm just hardwired to do shit. Do you ever feel it? Do you ever feel resistance to work?
Yeah, I would say every day. I really do. I would say every day I have some level of resistance, but I just think it's about just reframing, things. And I follow something that Alex Hormozy talks a lot about.
See, I don't think Alex Hormozy feels resistance.
I think so. It depends on your definition of resistance. So for me, I would say every day I have things that I have to do that I don't necessarily love doing. Like I would be like, if I really had a choice and like I was about to die, if I was to die tonight, I'm not going to be doing this one thing.
Give me an example of something like that in your normal week.
How much time do you have? I
Is it
mean,
is it writing content, preparing for podcast episodes, preparing for a coaching session? Like, what part of your business
all
and
the
life?
above. So after this, I have a few like smaller tasks I have to do. Like I have to get back to some people. I got to check my Slack. So I'm going to have to send some voice notes. I got to check my email because I'm waiting on something from my lawyer. Then I have to produce a piece of content. And then I got to go to the gym. And then I have a group call that I'm leading tonight. And I can't particularly say that I want to do any of those things.
So, what do you do? I mean, you've got people counting on you, so there's really almost no way you couldn't do them. But like the create a piece of content thing is something you could probably sweep under the rug, and nobody would notice. Like, what do you say to yourself in those moments? How do you get yourself to do those things on your to do list that you don't really feel like doing?
I just don't concern myself with whether or not I want to do them. Like I just, and again, the Alex Hormozy quote that I was going to say is, he just says, "Fuck your mood, follow the plan." I just don't care if I feel like doing so. Like that's why I say it's a state of mind. Like I don't even ask myself the question. It doesn't even cross my mind. Like, should I do this? Should I not? I just do it. And I think it's like a muscle that I've trained where it's like brushing your teeth, right? Brushing your teeth holds zero pleasure. Like zero. There's no pleasure in brushing your, I mean, maybe some weirdos think that it's like, pleasurable, but it's kind of this neutral task that's just kind of a nuisance. And but yet, do you ever wake up and think, do I feel like brushing my teeth or do I not? You know what I mean?
No, you just fucking do it.
You just fucking do it. So
You do it.
that's what I like. I could not do all of those tasks. Like the group call would be a tough one because I'd have to like cancel it and that would kind of suck. And I couldn't do that too much. And then my clients wouldn't be very happy. But all of those things, like I could just this afternoon, I could just go and I could sit and watch a Netflix series all
Right.
afternoon.
You could go play 9 holes of golf, man,
Exactly.
shoot a 38 and have a lovely afternoon. But
Probably
instead,
a 39 or a 40, but
39 or
or
40 is still
close.
good
Yeah.
golf, brother. That's good golf. I'm a 13 handicap, so I'm sometimes in that 39 range. I'm more commonly in like the 43 range.
I,
I joke that golf is kind of like the movie Groundhog's Day. Like, how many times can I go and shoot 43 before I decide I want to do something else?
I'm just joking, man. I'm actually more like between 40 and 45. Depends on the course too, man. If it's a tough course, I could be between 45 and 50 real easy.
Nice.
Um,
sounds like we'd be a good match though. So if we're ever
we
if
should
so
go.
we'll have to get that out there and bring the camera crew and then that'll make for some good content. But
Yeah, I would love that.
yeah,
But
loser has to shave their mustache. I think would
oh
have to
man, I
be.
can't do that. I can't do it. I'm already nervous. I'm already nervous.
But
Um,
so let me just ask you, like, what does your productivity system look like then? Do you just wake up at 5 a.m., make a to-do list of 15 things and just say, hell or high water, I'm doing this shit?
there's a few things that contribute to me being a very productive individual. And I mean, there's a lot of things. I'll just give you the biggest levers. Number one is the biggest and best productivity hack that I have is taking care of myself. And I know that's maybe an eye roller. And it's like, yeah, of course you would say that or whatever. And this might go in one ear and out the other with people because it's not the sexiest one. But truly, like, I haven't had a processed food in 2025. And I mean that unless you count dark chocolate, like healthy dark chocolate, like clean, like dark chocolate that doesn't have a lot of ingredients. If you count that as a processed food, I've had that a few times. If
That's unbelievable. And
I've
just to
had
stop you for a second,
mhm.
was there a book that you read at some point along the way that just kind of inspired you to cut out all these processed foods?
Similar to Brett from Meat Mafia.
Yeah,
I tried everything because I'm very sensitive to a lot of foods. So I'm not recommending everyone has to do this. This is just what really worked for me. Um,
cool.
but then
So
I
you cut
heard
out. So
I
go
heard
ahead.
I tried everything, and then I heard Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan one day because I still kind of felt off, even though I had tried everything.
Sure.
And I heard him on Joe Rogan talk about how his daughter's life was basically saved, and how he's on carnivore and how he's doing so well and everything. So I'm like, oh, fuck, this sounds crazy, but what have I got to lose? So I tried it, and within 4 days, I had never had more. It was like the light switch turned on. And I'm like, this
No
is how
shit,
I'm
huh?
supposed to feel. Yeah, I just felt unbelievable. I felt like I was on a smart drug, truly, and it's just because truly I am like really sensitive to a lot of foods. Clearly, my gut, has a lot of healing to do, and that's a long process. But anyways,
Number one
that's
productivity lever: clean up the diet, eliminate processed foods.
or just look, yes, but like everyone's got like some people can eat processed food. Again, going back to Donald Trump, the guy eats shitty all the time and he feels apparently he has the energy to work more than probably all of us combined. So I mean, I'm not saying it has to be diet. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself so your energy is optimized. Like you're not supposed to feel tired in the afternoon to where you need a nap.
Sure, sure.
If
I
if
take naps, so I got to work on
Well, it
that.
depends. I'm not saying naps are necessarily a problem, but like if you need to take a nap, if every by the afternoon you're like crashing and you're like, I have no energy, like, dude, my energy is consistent all day. And you're talking to someone who thought he had chronic fatigue syndrome. So, like,
Sure, I've been there.
lifestyle habits, take care of your health, That's the best productivity hack, because if your tank's empty and you're tired all day long, you're just not gonna, get a whole lot done. So that's number one. Number two, sleep is big with that as well too. Number two, yes, I plan my day the night before. I cannot believe that I used to live without having a plan going into each day. So I just look, I have a never ending to do list. Once you have a business or you start doing stuff, putting yourself out there, you're just going to have an endless list
You
of
never
things
get
you
to the
could do.
bottom. That doesn't
Exactly.
exist. It doesn't
So
exist.
I just look at what are the biggest levers and I put them in priority. What's the biggest lever I can do right now that's going to, um, catapult me towards and align me towards, my highest potential over the next 12 months and where I want to be. And then I just do that. And then what's the next thing? And I plan out my day. So I go in having a plan.
Is that
Um,
are you time blocking out every hour, or is it more so like here are the top three things I got to get done tomorrow, some way, somehow?
I'm not time blocking, but some people should. Like everyone's going to be a little different. I don't need to time block for whatever reason. I can just look at my list and kind of just chip away throughout the day.
Do you
But
keep the list
some,
short? Do you keep it in that 3 to 5 range, or
well,
is it like a woolly
no,
mammoth? No.
it's more than 3 to 5. There's usually like 12 things. But look, I don't, I pretty much work from morning till evening, unless I have something, unless I'm golfing or, whatever. But yeah, so, um,
So make the list
but,
the night before,
but there's
optimize
like
health.
there's 3 to 5 bigger things. There are probably three things, maybe more like 2 to 3 big things. The rest are kind of smaller. So yeah, that's the next thing
What would
is
you say you get to the bottom of that list every day? That those
no,
12 things.
no. I like to overshoot it sometimes. Well, not intentionally, but often I overshoot it, and that's okay because then it gets added to the next day. And I don't know. I know some people love being able to like cross everything off the list or whatever because they get that dopamine hit. And some people might have too much like OCD to leave a list that's incomplete. But I've gotten used to my list is never going to be done. Then the third, which is such a big lever, and I'll tell you what. So, um, I think one of the biggest differences between, I'm just going to say the rich and poor. Okay. I'm going to sound like Robert Kiyosaki here, but I just think this is one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, um, so they use time, they look at time differently. So I think poor people view money as the biggest asset. And then rich people, I think, look at time being the most valuable asset so they'll actually use money to buy back their time to then develop more skills and to be able to increase their value in the marketplace so they can end up making more money. Right. So I look to, with everything I do, I'm trying to go like kind of Dan Martell with it, the buy back your time theory that
Sure.
he has. I'm looking to systematize, automate, or outsource everything that's not a Kaylor job. Like I really only stick to the basically three things. I'm either producing content, four things: producing content, making high level decisions in my business, coaching, because I still coach, although I have systems and scale there, but I do have to eventually show up and coach to some degree. And then the fourth is managing my team. So those are like the four genius zones that I have. Those are the things that I'm good at. Those are the things that only Kaylor can do, at least to some degree. Everything else I look to automate, systematize. I have an EA that does personal tasks for me. Like I'm telling you, like I'll go to her and be like, "Hey, I need more rings." Or I need some jewelry, or I need a suit that I'm going to a wedding, or hey, Christmas is coming up. I need good gifts for my team, my family, whatever. Like I'm talking that,
Nice.
I don't clean. I get, I pay
Someone
people to do
cleans.
that. Someone cleans, right? It's not
Someone does
coming
the
from
laundry.
someone does it. It's just, it's not coming from a pretentious place. It's coming from if you want to maximize and optimize, your potential and the scale in which you build your mission that you have, that's what you got to do. And then, in my business, it's like everything else is, systematized and automated. Like I show up to my podcast and everything else is done. The scheduling, the communication, the editing, the posting, the promos on Instagram. everything is set up. I literally don't do anything but show up. And I take that very seriously. And that's why I can get a lot done, because I don't work, 40 to 80 hours a week. I work God knows how many hours, because I have a team of people who are putting in hours towards my mission as well too, right? So you got to find a way to hire people. And one of the biggest, and this will be good for your audience, even if you don't have a team or anything, even just leveraging VAs that you can get for, man, you can get a VA for like $10 an hour,
Oh,
you
sure.
know?
That do really good work.
Yeah, that do great work, and get them to do personal tasks for you, and just write them a list every week. And even if they can, look, you might think, oh, but I don't have a lot of money right now. But okay, but even if you get them to work 3 hours a week, you take 3 hours off your plate that you can put towards something that helps you elevate and gets to the next level. And it's $30. Find a way to save $30 on something else that you can pay to your VA, and then start from there, you know?
Hell yeah, brother. The three levers to next level productivity. I think I'll be between choosing that or the organic toilet paper for the episode name. And I'll let you know where I lands with that one. It's kind of 50-50 right now. Kaylor, though, dude, thank you for being with us.
Of
That was
course.
a whole lot. That was a whole lot of fun.
One more, or else I won't be able
Ooh,
to sleep tonight, though. I won't be
bonus
able to sleep
lever?
tonight. Yeah, because
Bonus lever. Let's
there was
go.
another lever. This one will be short. Um, everyone's all about, like, should we work hard or work smart? Look, both, man. And especially,
Both.
again, I'll go back to men. Like, the other greatest productivity hack I have is, I unless I have something that's going to serve me socially, like, I very much nurture my relationships. I very much, yeah, I make sure I have some restorative time. Like, I'm not all about, burning the candle at both ends. But if I'm not doing something else like that, like some sort of like health thing or restorative activity or relational activity, I'm working, you know? So that also helps me be productive too, is putting in the hours and the work.
I love it. Put in the hours, Kaylor. Dude, thank you for being with us today. Where can everyone keep up with what you got going on these days?
Yeah, I would just go to the Kaylor Betts, the KAYLORBETTS on Instagram, and you can check out my social channels there. And if you want to check out the podcast, it's the Awaken Winning Podcast.
There it is. Get in there, guys. It's a great show. And everyone, thank you for listening to Persistence Playbook. This is your weekly reminder that you will feel resistance to the important work in your life. Acknowledge that resistance. It's real, it's not fake. Lean into your mission, lean into your why, and take action anyway. We'll see you next week.